everyone. Hello and welcome in. Thank you for joining me. As of this recording, it is Friday night. I am currently taking a break from watching Cincinnati versus USF college football. Decided tonight would be a good night to take a look at some of these NFL draft prospects ahead of the 2022 NFL draft, notably the Cincinnati Bearcats quarterback Desmond Ridder and defensive back Ahmad Gardner, the latter of which could definitely be a first-round selection by the Minnesota Vikings in the upcoming draft. Also, as of this recording, it does not look good for the Minnesota Vikings defense heading into this weekend's game against the Los Angeles Chargers on the road. And we're going to focus on the defense today because I believe that is the current pain point for the Minnesota Vikings. The offense feels like it is handling the battle of attrition so far, which is a long football season because so far this season we've only lost Irv Smith Jr. To the season-ending IR, and then Garrett Bradbury is going to miss his second game this week due to being on the COVID-19 reserve list. Mason Cole will make his second start. There's no real drop-off so far in production from Mason Cole to Garrett Bradbury, so I think the Minnesota Vikings offense is going to be okay in terms of status and availability. How they perform on the field remains to be seen. The defense worries me because of how much of a far cry it is currently compared to where we were at the beginning of the season. We had these high expectations for this potentially retooled defense that we saw change dramatically during the offseason. So, also the fact that it's Friday, the Minnesota Vikings have released their final injury report for the week. We now have a clear understanding of what this defense is going to look like going up against Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler this Sunday in Los Angeles. So, the Minnesota Vikings final injury report for the week is as follows. Anthony Barr and Michael Pierce are both out. They will not be available. Listed as questionable is Bashaud Breeland, which is a problem despite the fact that he has played poorly this season. We'll get into that in a minute. And also the fact that we learned today that Kenny Willix has been placed onto the COVID-19 reserve list. He will not be available for this Sunday's game, which just go figure because after he debuts against the Baltimore Ravens, gets more playing time, turns out to be productive, looks like we may have something on our hands. Like, Kenny Willix is here, everybody. Don't worry about losing Danielle Hunter for the season. Him and DJ Wanham are going to tag team this with Everson Griffin on the other side, and everything's going to be okay. But no, God giveth and God taketh away. So Kenny Willix will not be available for this Sunday against the Chargers. He joins Harrison Smith on the COVID-19 reserve list along with Garrett Bradbury. Also pointing out the fact that Patrick Peterson is still on IR. He is unable or ineligible to return until we play the Packers next week. Danielle Hunter is on season-ending IR with Irv Smith Jr. We will not see him for the rest of the season and maybe for the rest of his career in a Minnesota Vikings uniform. It could be a wild offseason for Danielle Hunter. No one knows what will happen to him. So, to recap, Anthony Barr, Michael Pierce out, Bashaud Breeland questionable, and that affects a lot of things because we also don't have the same pass rush that we did when Danielle Hunter was available before the Ravens game. So I'm going to throw up a graphic here on the screen that you could follow along with, and I'm going to go through what I think is going to be the starting lineup for the Minnesota Vikings defense heading into the Chargers game. Important to point out before we get started as you look at this graphic here, the Minnesota Vikings defense currently ranks 28th in the league following Thursday Night Football, where the Miami Dolphins had a decent enough game against the Lamar Jackson led Ravens, where they were able to jump the Vikings one spot. And it turns out that blitzing everybody in cover zero is the key to stopping the Ravens offense. Wish the Vikings would have known that. So let's start with the defensive line here. You see from left to right, we have Everson Griffin, Armon Watts, Dalvin Tomlinson, and DJ Wanham as the projected starters. Following up with that, the fact that DJ Wanham and now Patrick Jones and Eddie Yarbrough, who was called up from the practice squad today, are going to have to carry more of the load with the loss of Kenny Willix. Moving over to the linebacker position, we have Nick Vigil, Eric Hendricks, and Blake Lynch, who will be filling in likely for Anthony Barr. Fun fact about this trio is that Michael Pierce, Danielle Hunter, and Anthony Barr have never been on the same field at the same time. Lined up for the Minnesota Vikings defense, all three together, because they have just been injured at different points during the season over the course of the last 2 years. I believe after week 2 last year, we did not have Anthony Barr, Danielle Hunter, or Michael Pierce for the rest of the season because that was when Anthony Barr torn his pectoral muscle, causing him to miss the rest of the campaign. Moving on to the defensive backs, you have Cam Danceler, who of course is in a huge sophomore slump, and then Bashaud Breeland is questionable, so I have Chris Boyd listed there with a question mark because I believe he would be the next man up potentially if Bashaud Breeland is unable to go. And then for safety, we are, of course, without Harrison Smith. because he tested positive Sunday before the Ravens game, causing him to miss also the Chargers game this week because he is unvaccinated and a critical thinker, and he will not be available because of the COVID protocol that says he will have to miss 10 days total before he can return to the team. So we are without our all-pro safety. We are without a pretty good linebacker in Anthony Barr. We have lost 2 stud defensive linemen. It is a far cry from where this defense used to be. And one of the things that we have talked about over the course of this season ad nauseum is the battle of attrition. And right now the defense is losing that because don't forget that Rick Spielman also jettisoned a couple of depth pieces during this year, i.e. Mike Hughes and Stephen Weatherly, so we are without the services of those guys as they are now playing for different teams. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for this defense going forward because I don't know when Michael Pierce is going to get healthy. I don't know how long the hamstring injury is going to linger for Patrick Peterson, given he's at this point in his career. And I know he's coming back from IR, but that doesn't mean that something can't flare up once again. Cam Danceler really has to figure things out if he's going to be the one to carry the load for this defensive back unit. And then I would just really like Harrison Smith to be available to play football games. And that was the reason that the media cared about vaccination status, was not because they gave a shit about the personal choices that they were making, was they just cared about if they were going to be available to play football, which is what they get paid to do. And unfortunately, Harrison Smith is not for the second straight week. So at least Cameron Bynum stepped up, proved that he is capable of transitioning to the safety spot after being a corner in Cal during his college years and had the interception last week against Lamar Jackson. So to recap all of this, the injury bug has taken its toll. We are only entering week 10 of the NFL season. There's still a lot of time left to go. The only luck that is on our side right now is that the rest of the NFC clearly doesn't want it, because after a couple of the top tier teams, it is a sea of garbage with a lot of teams being 4-4 and 3-5. So the hope is still alive if the Vikings want to make a playoff run. I just don't know how we're able to compete with the 28th ranked defense and this list of starters. It is going to be amazing if the Vikings can play up to their competition this week and keep this one a close game as they have done all season, except for when they didn't have to against the Seahawks. So that is a look at the Vikings defense heading into the Sunday game against the Los Angeles Chargers. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What can we do? How can the Vikings make this defense better? Because right now, I don't think that they have the talent to make it happen. We really need guys like Cam Danceler, Chris Bynum, Blake Lynch, and DJ Wonnum to step up. Maybe even Patrick Jones can be featured a little bit more than he has this season. So that's going to do for me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.